So, tell me, this Reverend James Blackwell I keep hearing about, where's he from? I mean, really.
What do you mean? That was in Oxford, I told you already. Oh, what do you call it? The other place, if you like.
No, the other place is Eton. I'm not sure Christchurch qualifies as a place. More of an era, lost in time.
Oh, very funny.
I mean originally, Sod University.
What?
Look, no offence meant, but that's an affected accent if I ever heard one. You can't fool me this long. I hail from Pembrokeshire, after all. I've already revealed that to you.
Well, I know, it's not affected, it's what I picked up, you know?
So?
So? What, before Oxford?
That's the idea.
Wedmore.
Wedmore?
Yes, Wedmore. It's near Cheddar.
Oh, lovely. Nice gorge down there.
Very good.
You know, I'm actually quite a big fan of cheddar cheese.
Oh, yes.
Love a good slice.
Okay, yes, here we go, back to school, yeah. James the Bumpkin.
No, not at all.
I'm just surprised you picked up on it, to be honest. Hardly anyone does. It comes out still sometimes when I'm, anxious or... Well, hardly ever, really. Here, you want a pair of said? Tuppence a candle, innit, Babber? Swap you for some cider. Yeah.
I think it's charming. Honestly, I don't mean to patronise.
Oh. No, well, thank you, I suppose.
I just want to know everything I can about you.
What?
Anyway, did I tell you about my find yesterday?
I don't think you did.
Now, take a look at this. Now, it's honestly remarkable.
Well, it is, yes.
Yes, do you see this here?
I think so.
Yeah, these lines spiralling off. You see where the shell should end, but then it carries on.
Yes.
This way. Look, it spins off into another and another and another. And then...
What? Is it all well, Robert?
Yes. Yes. Sorry.
No.
I'm just a little distracted. I haven't been sleeping particularly well. Ignore me.
Yeah.
What were we speaking about?
Oh, nothing. Well, no, these fossils. Are you still going down to Boggle Hole every day?
Oh, yes.
And the crows, do they...
What?
Well, I mean, do they come with you? Do they mind?
They're fine. Pathetic folk, honestly. I feel bad for them. Their son.
Yeah, I know. I don't... Listen, I don't mean to be... Well, I'm not sure you should feel too bad.
I know. A typical maudlin old Robert. All that local tragedy aside, though, it's remarkable, aren't they?
What, the crows?
No, the fines, these.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, I mean, they certainly seem so.
Yes. Cambridge will lose their minds, believe you me. It'll be absolute carnage.
Well, sounds fun.
Oh, yes.
You do know you can stay here. Those crows, they really aren't godly.
Oh, James. Oh, I love how reverend you are. I'm teasing. I'm sorry.
Let me get that.
Oh. Good man.
Just be a moment. Here, meantime, will you tell me again about those games you played at university? Those, what were they? The little codes you made up for each other.
Oh, that! Well, it's just silly nonsense. You must have had similar. You pick the first word in each sentence, the last, the middle. Now that's trickier. Make them decode it. It's good with Latin, better with Greek. It's best with Norse. That catches them out, even the masters.
Well, it's all Greek to me. Sorry, I'm not... I know I'm not funny. I do find it fascinating, though. I always feel I missed out somehow, leaving early and all.
No, you really didn't, believe me. The world is elsewhere. How's that tea?
Almost ready.
Well, no rush. You know, there are much bigger things down there, at Boggle Hole. Huge things. Stranger things. I don't have the right equipment with me, of course, but once the university gets word, this place will be covered with scholars. They'll be crawling like ants and...
Oh.
Are you expecting anyone?
No, of course not.
Allow me.
Robert, be careful.
There's no one there. Just the wind.
Do you really believe that?
Ooh, well...
Ooh. Stop it. Robert, stop it. Just get back inside. Right. Get back inside. Lock the door. Lock the door.
I have done. You mustn't worry.
No, I know.
For a man who's spent so long on the moors, you're easily spooked.
Well, that may be, but there's things out here that are worth fearing.
Of course.
I mean, you must have seen the figures out there at night, the men. I swear they're a sign of something ill.
Don't mind them. I'll keep you safe.
I know.
How's that tea?
Oh, never mind the tea. Never mind any of it. Come on. You did lock the door, didn't you?
Yes.
The Apocalypse Players present A Residence at the Bay, a Call of Cthulhu 7th edition scenario written by Danann McAleer in the style of M.R. James. With Joseph Chance as Dr. Henry Carrick-Muir, Dan Wheeler as Reverend Peregrine McCutcheon, Dominic Allen as Lady Helen Marjorie Barmier Potts, and Danann McAleer as the Keeper of Arcane Lore. Part 5. The Albatross. Reverend Blackwell. James Blackwell.
What do you think you're doing, sending coded messages when there's an urgent matter afoot? How are we supposed to... You can't rely on us to just sort of... We're not cryptographers, young man.
No, I know, but I thought that any fellow of Robert's would be would easily see through my child's play. I couldn't risk it being even the postal service. I don't know.
And presumably, forgive me, Reverend, but presumably you feared that someone would observe you asking for help.
Yes, well, quite.
The crows. You were concerned about the crows.
Well, the crows are the crows, and I don't like to assume anything of anyone, but if they don't know where Robert's gone, I'll be damned. It was them he was staying with.
Well, intercepting the post, I turned to the Reverend, and indeed, Lady Marjorie, and I say, isn't that a criminal offence?
Yes, very much so. Should be a hanging one.
There are a lot of things that happen out here in the wilder parts of England, which may be offences, would certainly go unnoticed.
Well, I can't say I agree with your methods, but perhaps you ought to give us a bit more information about why you became so concerned. What leads you to think Robert didn't just pack up and go home?
Well, I can tell you with the same instrument I used to contact you, and he rushes back into his house.
More postcards, I suppose.
There's a moment while he's in there if you guys want to...
What do we make of this whippersnapper, is he a real vicar? I mean, I can't imagine many people traipse out here for services. Who's paying him? Do the church really subsidise someone to come out here in the middle of nowhere?
Well, I'm afraid that is exactly how the church work.
I mean, Lady Marjorie, let's not get paranoid.
Well, it's one thing when it's Bangalore, but this isn't. This is coastal province of Yorkshire.
Bangalore, isn't that where Ned Keister was posted?
I think it may have been. And at the mention of Ned Keister, McCutcheon just sort of turns away and takes a deep breath.
As you're taking a deep breath, the Reverend comes rushing back out, and
But it meant Ned Keister.
Ned Keister appears from a grave. No, the Reverend comes back out, holding a journal, and he says, Robert left this with me for the last week he was here. We'd dined together, and he would tell me about. He was obsessed with the fossils in the area. He said they were unbelievable. There was something about a helm, a set of armour. There was something historical. I'm not a man of that myself, but the journal's here, and it's where I got all of your addresses from. You were the first 3 in his journal.
If forces are arrayed against us who are willing to break the law regarding the post, then perhaps we should go inside. They might be observing us now. There were some figures on the hill. We thought they were scarecrows.
As you say that, he sort of does almost a triple take, almost does a full 360 around him, and says, "Yes, let's go inside. Let's." And hurries back into the house.
We all enter twitching violently. I don't think any of us are happy about the scarecrows.
As we head back into the house, I'd take one last look up at the church, which has these strange owl figures. And could I do a theology roll on that to see if there's any, or I mean, maybe there's another roll to see whether I know of whether that has some kind of biblical reference that I'm not aware of, or some other reference.
Yeah, I mean, give me a roll.
Would you like theology specifically, or education?
I'll take theology.
I mean, education is actually better if it was more general, but I think...
Well, go education then, let's go.
I'll roll... I'll tell you what I roll anyway. I mean, I figure since I'm staring at a church, it might be theology. I have passed my theology, which is also a pass on my education, so...
Owls are not common as grotesques on churches.
No, I didn't
Something
think so.
odd about it. You can't think of it. In fact, you can't think of a single biblical passage referring to owls. Your education tells you, of course, that they're typically thought of as very wise, although you as a naturalist will probably know that most of their head is feathers and actually they're fucking thick as shit. But there's something odd about their faces as you move towards the vicar's house, and as you see a sort of blanket of fog start to move in across the moors. You look back up at the church, and in the gathering shadows, the faces are more distinct than they were, and there's something intensely predatory about them, and you wonder why they're carved there. And as you enter the door, the Reverend closes it behind you and sort of busies himself around. He sort of puts the kettle on the stove and places the journal down on a sort of a table beside a chair and says, well, there it is. Robert left it here just before he went missing.
Excuse me, how do you know he went missing?
Well, I suppose I don't, but well, he was supposed to have dinner at mine, as we'd been having all week, and he didn't arrive. And
So you're saying it's an absence rather than any evidence of foul play? The foul play is a suspicion.
Yes, but if you read the journal, I think you'll, well, if you can read it, that is.
How dare you? I bustle over to it. And
I think by that time it's already in my hands, unless
I try and snatch it from you.
unless, and I'm looking at the Reverend, and I'm about to say McCutcheon, and as I'm saying that, she snatches it out of my hand.
I'm not going to have a man tell me I can't read.
No, there's some. I'm actually not immediately interested in the journal because there's something else on my mind. As this journal is being passed back and forth, I would like to. Oh, my psychology's not very good, but
I think passed is a generous description.
so right, yeah.
Being snatched.
The book's being snatched. I take a look at the Reverend and I say, let's see, can I do this with charm? That's not very good. No. Persuade is awful. My social skills are terrible. I say,
and yet he persists.
And yet he persists. How did you meet Robert? It seems you formed a very close bond very quickly. Did you know him before he came to Robin Hood's Bay?
Not at all, no. Well, it's funny, really. Pastor that I may be, I'm quite lonely up here. The people, well, the locals, they don't tend to favour the church of a Sunday, and I've been up here a few years now. It was just lovely to meet a man of education, and he stopped by once while he was going across the moors and asked me if I had any interest in the fossils, and of course I didn't until I spoke to him. But as his friends, you must know how enthusiastic he was, how
of course,
how he made you feel when he talked about something he was interested in. He made you
very passionate man.
Oh, he loved an old fossil.
I would like to do a psychology roll, bad as the skill is,
Loved digging up a bone.
to see whether they dug up any bones together. That is a euphemism. To see whether there's any more to this relationship than the Reverend is letting on.
Please do.
So psychology, my psychology is 25. Oh, and I've rolled a 19.
Wow.
Oh no, I haven't. Sorry, I've rolled a
91.
99.
I'm not sure now. I'm going to roll that again. Sorry, I thought it was a 19. And it's either a 79 or a 19, but those numbers are right next to each other.
Oh, I'm going to re-roll it.
Well, I failed it now, so fine.
It doesn't seem like he's hiding anything from you, but he's maybe just hard to read. He's already admitted to you that he's forged these postcards to get you here, but
Yeah.
So he seems to be in a spirit of sharing, but it's hard to read further on.
But sharing how much and with whom?
Yeah.
Well,
Sadly, we won't get to know that, perhaps. Unless, I suspect I'm too busy trying to help Lady Marjorie look like I'm giving it to her, rather than just sort of briefly holding on with a fire in my eyes, thinking, I'm going to find a great find. On that point, I think he somewhat, in ejaculatory fashion, appropriately or inappropriately, says, so were they archaeological finds or paleontological? Paleontological.
I'm not sure, to be honest. Geological?
Geological?
I would have thought so. Yeah.
I dabble in all of those.
Well, so I hoped. Robert certainly did more than dabble here. The things he told me, he seemed obsessed. He seemed obsessed that he'd discovered something that would change everything. He thought he became quite well. To be honest, in the last couple of days he became quite frantic. But we would still have our calming moments together. If you read the journal, or at least look it over, you may understand.
Do I see Lady Marjorie flicking through it eagerly?
Oh, yes.
Thank God.
So the first thing you read, there's a lot of passages, and you can do an intelligence roll if you want to see if it is written by him, but it looks at a glance to be the handwriting you'd recognise, sort of at odds with the copied postcards. You can sort of see where the handwriting was copied from.
I tell you what I'd like to do, actually, is as I flick through it, if I could do, I don't know, maybe like a psychology roll to see if I can gauge if his mental state changes dramatically. And
please do.
I'll prioritise the entries where he's lost his mind. Or lost his calm.
Yes.
Sounds like an English literature role to me.
I'd happily do that as well. In fact, I'd be better at that.
All right, do that.
What we're doing, language?
No, I was teasing because some of us allegedly did degrees in it. Yeah.
So I've heard.
Textual analysis.
So called.
She has literature as an art and craft, but she couldn't do a degree in it because of the misogynistic society in which...
In which case, I mean, come on, bonus die.
Oh yeah.
What am I rolling?
Misogyny bonus die.
That'll rebalance things.
Yes, darling. Why don't you just have a bonus die for the whole game? Actually, seeing as you're playing at such a significant disadvantage.
That's not funny, Dan.
Bonus die
That's
for
not
all
funny.
your rolls.
That's not funny.
What am I rolling for now?
Well, psychology or whatever. I mean, you're analysing his journal, right?
Oh my goodness, is that what I think it is? It is. I've rolled... No, dear heart. I've rolled a 10 on a 43, which is 2 points off an extreme success. Is it worth me spending the luck? Is it going to make a big...
I think a hard success is enough, considering you know him.
Then I'll stick with it.
As you flick through, the writing becomes more and more scrabbled. There are notes in the margins. There are no margins anymore. There's drawings of strange fossils. There's sort of, you can see like a plesiosaur, but it seems to have 6 necks. You can't quite tell what's happening with it.
Oh no!
It's clear that he was getting quite frantic, and then there was just a cut-off point on, well, I'll tell you when.
Where he sneezed.
On the 24th of January.
Oh.
Reverend Blackwell, do you need a hand with making tea? I'm sure Lady Marjorie will be involved.
Yes, of course. He hadn't even hadn't even heard the whistle going on the kettle, and he sort of rushes over and saves it, and starts pouring it out. There's a lot of entries. Earlier on, he seems to have been in Denmark for a while, which you didn't know about, but in the latter part of last year, he seems to have been in Denmark for a couple of months.
Perhaps he's retracing the footsteps of the Danes, of the ancient Vikings.
The first sort of one that stands out in relation to any of you is this one. It's from January 16th. If someone wants to read it.
Go on then, I may as well read it.
Go on, you're reading.
January the 16th. I endeavour to maintain a journal. The hawkish reverend would never forgive me otherwise, sharp as he is. However, it seems that everything pertaining to the utterly dull nature of these people and their activities in these cold, grey coasts is worthless in regards recording a universal truth. Perry, forgive me, I do hope you are as interested in the subtle differences between lemon sole and Big Bay cod, because those are the only details you'll be receiving in my correspondence. The chips are nice, though.
And there's a few others in that sort of vein. After that is where it seems to start becoming more scrabbled, and the writing becomes more sort of frantic. You can see on the date, on the 19th, it seems to be talking about fossils. You can see these sort of diagrams he's drawn of ichthyosaurs, maybe, or something along those lines, but they seem to be off. It's almost like he's mirroring them geometrically. January 21st, you see something saying Rev sinkholes, which you assume is linked to the Reverend and the sinkhole you saw outside the gates. You see the word Beowulf mentioned several times and sort of scratched out again. and you see helm, must check notes when home, unbelievable luck if so. January 23rd is getting very hard to distinguish anything, but you see references to plants and drawings of plants, and at the bottom of the page you just see the words, and someone upstairs. January 24th, the only note is, have key, son missing, look upstairs.
Now, did you say Beowulf, as in the earliest piece of English literature that exists?
Yes.
As a student in my spare time of the literary canon, is it worth me doing a roll on literature to see if I could glean any connection between what the Beowulf connection is to all of these notes?
I could tell you all about Beowulf, which you'd already know, but it seems I'm not sure you'd glean why he was writing Beowulf, or why he was... Next to Beowulf, the word helm appeared a couple of times. All of the references to Beowulf seem to have been scratched out.
Is he suggesting he's found Beowulf's armour? That seems very far-fetched.
It seems very far-fetched, doesn't it? But the writing is so frantic, you kind of... You may be slightly worried for his mental health, perhaps?
Dominic's trying to remember Beowulf. Is the helm mentioned in Beowulf?
We're in the keeper's hands on that one. I mean, I can whiffle on about Beowulf.
I mean, we all know the basics, right? The monster, the mother.
Grendel.
Yeah, she lives downstairs, actually.
Ray Winston.
Grendel's mother's downstairs.
And Ray Winston and What's the Chops, right? Brad's ex.
Oh, Angelina.
Angelina. That's pretty much how it's written, as far as I remember.
Something... A chill comes over Lady Biamia. She plonks the journal down. One moment. He mentions Beowulf in here. Now, I'm trying to remember, is there a scene in Beowulf where Grendel's mother, where they see her hand and they fall asleep unnaturally? Where is it? I actually just saw it. Here it is. Then they sank into sleep. She quotes this from memory. Then they sank into sleep, a savage penalty one paid for his night's rest. It was no new thing for that people. It was no new thing for that people, since Grendel had occupied the gold-giving hall, working his evil, until the end came, death for his misdeeds. It was declared then to men, and received by every ear, that for all this time a survivor had been living, an avenger for their foe, and his grim life's leaving. Grendel's mother herself.
See a hand waving you asleep.
What's the significance of the hand?
Dominic is trying to remember.
Well, you say it as if you recognise it, but I don't. I think you did the right thing, Reverend.
Thank you.
Could you tell us about the sinkhole out back?
I'm not sure. Robert seemed intensely interested in it. All I know is, the molehills around here have been getting larger and larger. It's almost as if, the moles have been growing. I don't know, but I don't know. It seems to be something across the moors in this area, but that one by the church wall, I couldn't say. One day I woke up and it seemed to have caved in. Robert was convinced it was connected somehow to the fossils he'd found down at the coast, but
Oh, interesting.
I honestly don't remember how.
Did he by any chance leave any of the fossils with you?
No. He hadn't taken them out. He's he'd uncovered several down at Boggle Hole, I believe the locals call it, but
he never took anything away from him.
They were too delicate. And he sort of pauses for a moment and says, he did leave me one. I'd quite like to keep it, if that's all right. Anyway, I'm being silly.
If I might have a wee look, of course it's yours, but there are rules about these things, Reverend.
He comes back and sort of places like a shard of shale down, which initially you look at it and looks like an ammonite. But you can do me a roll if you'd like to.
Could I give it a natural world roll?
My dear man, I'm a paleontologist. Let's stand
Oh,
stand back. By which I mean to say, I think at this point I almost eagerly grab it, place it down, take out an eyeglass, and begin to study like a man possessed. 29 on a 69. That's a hard paleontology roll.
As soon as you put the glass to your eye, you see something is off with it. It looks like an ammonite, but
Oh God, my eye!
there's something, I don't know what the word is, something fractal about it. It's almost as if several ammonites were compressed together in some sort of suicide pact. But either way, the sort of ridges of the shell seem to sort of spill out geometrically. Seems to be creating a larger pattern. It's stranger than anything you've seen.
I think if it hadn't been for, even although Bajamirs had her eye on the book more than the other two of us, I think. I suspect we both had a look at the pictures drawn by Robert, and I think that's the thing that guards me against crisis. Because I take the eyeglass away and I'm startled, but I sort of look back and I say, "Do you mind if I look at that journal now? Here, have a look at this. Have a look at this." And I pass the fossil to Pip, and I ask for the journal.
pass it over, and I've had a revelation, which is, I say, no, it wasn't. I remember it wasn't Grendel's mother. It wasn't her hand. It was Grendel himself. They cut his hand off in the story of Beowulf. Do you remember?
Hey, now you mention it, I do.
You don't suppose that the fossil he's found is of Grendel? No, that would be... It is a fiction, it is a fiction.
In fact, as you glance back towards the pages, you see a lot of writing saying, "It is a fiction, it is a fiction."
Literally as you're passing the book away.
But you've seen this fractal shell in the sediment, in the shale of this rock, and it's like nothing you've ever seen before as a paleontologist. You immediately, although you don't understand quite what it is or how it's happened, you can sense why he was so excited.
And I think I literally say out loud, if you do pass me the book, Lady Helen Marjorie Pajama Potts, I think I say out loud, I thought for a moment he was mad, but look at this, Pip, look at it. And I pass the eyeglass as well.
Well, I'll have a roll to see whether I can see what he's seeing. Yeah, that's it's almost an extreme natural world roll.
Nice.
I imagine I probably don't understand as much as the Doctor does in terms of.
Well, you're more into botany, right? But you at least you recognise there's something off. Without the glass, it would almost be, you wouldn't notice it. You think it was just markings on the sedimentary rock. But with the glass, it's clear. It's like there's something unsettling about it.
Yeah, I've certainly seen ammonites before, and this doesn't look like any ammonite I've seen before.
I swing the book round to them and I go, look, he's doing echoes. It's like a geometric copy. I thought that was just madness on his part. I thought he was losing his mind, but that's what's...
And as you look at the book, you see there is a distinct ichthyosaur skeleton, but there are images in it that make no sense biologically, but seem to be sort of fractal copies of fossils. Yeah. Your teas are going cold.
Oh.
And he sort of takes the ammonite back and places it in his pocket.
I stare at him like a man who might cudgel him in a few seconds. And then I recover myself.
Okay.
Did Robert leave anything else of his around the house?
No, he didn't. You've not seen anything of him then, since you've been here?
Well, I think that much should be obvious.
No, I know, I'm being silly.
But may I ask, the journal,
Yes.
did he leave it here
Yes.
before he left? So he left it in person?
Yes, I don't think he meant to, but he was coming around every evening and we were discussing his finds and...
Are you sure he didn't mean to? What I'm trying to glean is whether he suspected he was in danger and left it on purpose.
Well, I don't know. I didn't get that impression from him, but the last entry, as you see, after all the chaos, January 24th, have key, son missing, going to look upstairs. It has to be the Crows. Their son died some years ago, and I don't see... He was staying there. I don't see what else it could be. I don't know what they've done with him. I don't... And sort of breaks down into tears.
Oh, Reverend, excuse me, I know this must be terribly difficult for you, but this journal...
No, I'm being silly. You knew him better than I just...
No, this journal, as you say, indicates a man struggling to find the truth in strange events and strange finds. But did you not see anything of that nature in him in person the last night he spent here? This journal reads almost like that of a madman, but you sat and had a civilized dinner with a sane person who never mentioned any of these things about a key or a person upstairs, any of that?
I have to agree with the good Reverend here that it seems unlikely that you would have failed to glean the tenor of his mind in this moment.
He seems quite cagey and suddenly sort of seems to sort of shut off slightly, and sort of says, yes, he may have been slightly frantic, but don't we all get frantic sometimes? He almost snaps at you.
Did you encourage him to find out what was in that house?
No. I've no interest.
For your own ends?
I've no interest.
Do I believe him?
Now, Lady Marjorie, we no need to put the man on the stand.
Well, maybe there is. I rolled a hard success on my psychology.
The tears are genuine, and he looks sort of a mixture of desperate and ashamed.
So there is guilt.
Yeah.
Is this the kind of thing that only a cross-examination is revealing unto you, Lady Marjorie, or do we all get a chance to
I think, well...
enjoy these psychological insights?
You could all do me a psychology roll if you'd like to.
Well, I think I say, young man, I have tutored a number of boys in my time, and I always know when someone's telling a fib. You were better off clearing your conscience with us now. If the worst has happened to Robert, I can assure you, we are the only ones who can absolve you in this.
And then, if I may say so, we are not really capable of absolution ourselves. There's only one way you can find absolution for this, and I would be more than happy to pray with you.
At that, he grabs your hand, Peregrine. And, well, Dom, could you do me a persuade roll?
Yeah. Now, that's 5 points off a hard success. Will a regular success do? Or do you want?
I think a regular success will do.
Great.
He's sort of holding Peregrine's hand and sort of drops his mug to the floor and says, Robert and I, well, he was here some 3 weeks, and although we didn't talk initially, we were,
You lay together.
You tutored boys, you said, Miss Lady Helen.
Hang on a minute. What did you just say?
I reach into my bag and pull out a small flask of whiskey, and I put it on the table with quite a loud bang. And I say, sometimes in the Sudan, men became very close to each other in the lack of other company. And I unstopper the whiskey and I offer it to Lady Bajamia.
Yes.
And I say,
I have a good swig.
in the lack of other company, that friendship suddenly becomes very intense. Not that I know of such things, but I can imagine a place like this, people fearing for their lives, discoveries beyond the ken of men being made, conversations were had. But I think, on the benefits of all four of us, it's time to lay everything on the table. I, for one, would like to investigate the dig site down by Bogle Hole, but I'm very worried about what the crows are up to. And for a fact, the three of us have had an influence of the upstairs room. And although he's passed the whiskey to Jamir, he actually shakes as it leaves his hand.
She as she takes it, she stills your hand with her other hand, and says, "I think retracing Robert's steps is a very wise choice. But first, let us hear what young James, what the young Reverend Blackwell here has to say. You were about to tell us something. Well,
I think I've told you as much as I need.
You asked me if I have experience of young boys.
Well, the doctor here understands.
I think we understand, Lady Marjorie. I don't think we need poor Reverend to spill his heart out to us, but I will urge him to go now to the church and pray.
Yes, I should. And he sort of grips your hand for a moment and then lets go very suddenly.
Would you like me to come with you, Reverend?
No. That's the last thing I need. Enjoy your tea. I'll be with you presently. And he sort of fumbles towards the door and leaves. And you see him through the window sort of walking up to the church.
I am very grateful I was not born in Yorkshire. Everyone here seems to be completely deranged.
Do any of you, what would you like to do? What's your impulse? I mean, we're about mid-afternoon now. Let's say it's about 3 o'clock. It gets dark at about 5:30, being early in the year.
Oh, fuck it.
I'd like to, while we finish our tea, I'd like to take a moment to make sure we're all on the same page. So I can say something
please.
like, I think in this moment where we haven't got the Reverend, I think we should quickly take stock of what exactly we all think is going on. Because it seems to me that there's clearly something very disturbing about those people we were staying with. There's certainly something disturbing in their house. And as for Robert, well, I feel like this vicar, if he's been here this whole time, he will have more experience of those people. And surely, if you were the vicar here and you had an inkling of what was going on, it would be a source of endless suspicion. But I don't see why Robert would go down there and investigate their rooms, what have you, when his interest lies in the fossils and the archaeological stuff. I don't see why he would suddenly involve himself in the personal fortunes of one family.
No, it makes very little sense. If he was so passionately excited by these discoveries he'd made, and it seems by his journal that was the main source of his excitement, then why distract himself with some strange search for a lost son who died many years ago?
That's why I wondered, you see, if the Reverend had encouraged him along that line for some reason.
But, Lady Bajamia, surely you agree, I think you do, with myself and the Reverend, that none of us get an ill feeling from Blackwell.
No.
I've seen enough of life to know a liar most times, and my 17 on my psychology check that never got asked for tells me that I'm not wrong with this man. I trust my instinct. I mean, you know.
But that doesn't mean that he's not being economical with the truth.
Of course, but then he's concerned about the scandal.
Exactly so. That's why I felt the need to press him.
Oh,
Not because I feel that he's evil.
we've done nothing
Seems
wrong.
to me, no, if you'll excuse me, he has done something wrong, but his guilt is a theological one, not one with regards to Robert's actions, as far as I can see.
Aye, well, I'll leave that to you, Reverend. You're the master of such things. You know, Abel is Cain's brother, and breasts they have sucked the same, say I. But the nature of things is we should look at those fossils down in the bay there. See what perhaps...
Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say, I agree with you that I think... what I think you're driving at is that to put ourselves into the mind of Robert, to understand his motivations, we must retrace his steps.
Aye, and I must confess, of course, I have a personal acquisitive aspect to things. Now that we're completely alone and Blackwell is totally out of earshot, let's be frank, the matter of his theological scandal is, not of concern to us.
No.
I'm more concerned about what the...
No concern to me at all. No concern to me at all. No, I'm not bothered about that at all. People can do what they like. I mean, I have no... Robert is, like a... well, he was a student, that's all.
I look at Pip, and my eyes slightly widen, and we both furiously roll psychology. I failed, so do you.
I failed.
Damn it!
But I think I already have had the impression. I'm strong.
I'm behind. I'm behind on that one.
That she has had some sort of relationship with Robert, although I don't know whether it's like a proper relationship or whether it's just.
Oh, I wondered if she was having a relationship with people of her own sex. But okay. Well, I mean, you know it.
Oh no, I think Bajamia and Robert had a little something, or at least she hoped that they did.
I wear a lot of perfume.
No, I confess an acquisitive aspect to you, Pip, more than readily. Of course, I'm fascinated. The mere thought of taking any of these back down. I mean, Cambridge they would have a field day with this gentleman.
Yes.
But the truth of it is, I'm very concerned about the events of last night. I can't explain them. Even, and I say this again slightly shakingly, even with my own problems that I have, McCutcheon.
Yes, understood. Well, we all spent an unusual night, and we can't all blame that on the same thing you can, Doctor.
Sorry to go back, because I can't remember, or I wasn't paying attention if you did it just now. Did Dr. Carrigmuir relay his experience in the house, upstairs?
The truth is, friends, you appear to have knowledge regarding a hand you saw that I didn't. And I myself have not been entirely forthcoming, perhaps, about that room. Reading these last words, I have a key, son missing, look upstairs. I mean, what I saw was not... It was not clear to me instantly what it was that I was looking at. I saw the bed writhing, and I saw shapes within it, which I assume must have been rats. Of course, they were eating the goose feathers, the duck feathers. Isn't that the logical conclusion? That they must have been... It was a nest of rats that had found itself into a bed. I wipe my brow.
I put my hand on Dr. Carrigmuir's arm, and I stand slightly, very close, in a sort of maternal way. You can smell the sort of heavy lavender scent that I wear. And I say, Henry, what did you see in that room? Tell us simply the details. Try not to tell us what you imagine you saw. What you saw.
Well, I opened the door and I saw there was a figure lying in the bed. It looked most like a scarecrow. Perhaps, although maybe I thought that afterwards. It had a face. Of course it had a face, but it was all wrinkled like linen and crumpled up. Too crumpled to be... I mean, it couldn't have been... Anyway, what I'm saying is that then there was this writhing, this moving underneath the sheet, and... that's why I thought they must be rats. They must have been eating the feathers, in the pillows. It's happened to me once in bad lodgings myself. Although, now you mention it, might that have been why
Why you imagined it.
Why I thought it.
Yes.
Christ, is it hot in here? It can't be.
May may I ask, excuse me, Henry, but this experience you had, was this before or after you partook in your substances that you keep in your briefcase?
It was after you woke me. No, my medicine was used by then. It doesn't have an effect to that length, especially for a man such as myself. He's talking about the opium. I have to take it for my nerves at times.
Well, there is also another possibility that perhaps the same thing that was used to send us to sleep, if something was used to send us to sleep, may have created some hallucinogenic effect.
That would explain the hand and...
I grip you by the arm. As you say, that. Jamia. But I sort of stop as you say it. The hand. What do you mean by the hand? But I'm still gripping Pip by the arm.
You know the trig point?
Aye.
Did you see a scarecrow stood in the trig point at any point yesterday evening?
That it did. With its arm raised like a mast.
Yes, but perhaps you didn't see what we did later in the evening, which was the impression that hand was on fire. Is that how you would describe what we saw, Lady Marjorie?
Yes. Yes, I think you're correct.
Now, it seems to me that is... I don't know much about hallucinogens, only the...
Dr. Henry, I know you're trying to be rational, and I think that's important, but my mind, perhaps because I'm old and given to flights of fancy, or perhaps it's desperate hope. Is there any chance that what you saw in that bed was Robert?
The one thing I would add is I did think to myself at the end, why would you tie a scarecrow to the bed? He was chained up. I think it was a chain.
Could it be possible that they have simply disguised Robert as a scarecrow and restrained him as a prisoner?
Even with a past sanity check, I think I blanch visibly, and I put my hand to my mouth, the back of my hand to my mouth, and I just walk towards the door in quite a sudden movement. But in the full suggestion that yes, you are absolutely right, it could have been. But I've been holding that back.
The only thing then we don't know is to what end.
Perhaps that stays me at the door, because that is a rational inquiry, and I like the thought that he might respond to that.
With the room locked and Robert restrained, why would it be necessary to disguise him as a scarecrow?
As you're discussing this, you hear a sort of sound on the window, and you turn around, and there's half an earthworm sort of wriggling, stuck to the glass.
Did someone just throw an earthworm at the window?
Oh, it's just those boys there, the one with the strange face. They come up there, they play a game. Don't worry, ignore them. Oh no, that's in...
Half an earthworm seems to be just suddenly stuck to the pane, peeling downwards.
Can I immediately do a spot hidden to see whether there's, run to the window and do a spot hidden to see whether there's a sign of anyone?
Yeah.
Or any movement?
Oh, it's the perfect interruption, because I wanted to ask the Reverend about his theological inquiries as to why someone would want to do that, but interruption, perfect.
I have rolled a 0-1.
Yeah, and he's gripped.
So you immediately see, just behind the church wall, in which you're still encompassed, you see a tiny hand sort of throwing something up, like a bit of grass or something. You see just near the window of the house in the churchyard.
There's a small child out there. Shall we
Slap his legs.
Well, I'll go and speak to him. You can join me if you like, but I'm happy to go and have a word with him. This is church property after all, and I feel confident in telling him that he's not to behave like that.
If you need me to slap his legs, you holler.
No, I don't think that'll be necessary, and I make for the.
You obviously have no experience of young boys, Reverend.
Oh, believe me, I do.
I am at the front door, and I open. I open the door, and I say to you as you're passing, I've had an experience many times with young boys where I scare them. You might be better off without me, and you should take the lady with you. What do you say, Lady Marjorie?
You want me to go with him?
Well, I find a figure such as yours can sometimes get something out of wee boys.
I'll come along.
The combination of you and the Reverend would surely be impossible to resist.
I'll come along in a supervisory capacity.
So, having seen the fractal ammonite, you suddenly see the sort of sketchings in the margins of this notebook in a slightly different light than you may have done otherwise. You see, half plesiosaurs with 6 fins and 7 jaw bones. You see, nautilus and mosasaurs with several rows of teeth that shouldn't be there. It strikes you as a paleontologist as laughable had you not just seen that ammonite.
Crucial.
And suddenly his excitement at sending you, although it wasn't him that sent you this postcard, from what the Reverend says, if you believe him, he seemed to be very excited, very frantic even with what he'd discovered in the last few days. So that rings true. Meanwhile, the other two of you were heading outside to see if you could corner this child. So he's sat there by a wall, so you can say what you like.
Young man.
Oh yeah?
Young man, what are you doing down there? Are you throwing things at the vicarage there? That's really quite poor behaviour. You know that, of course.
Well, and you realise it's the boy who carried the steamer trunk down the steps of Robin Hood's Bay, and he says, well, it might be bad behaviour, but I'm only 9, I don't know what's right or not.
What a ridiculous thing to say.
That's exactly the sort of thing 9-year-olds say.
Come here, boy, so I can slap your legs.
You've already thicked me here 17 times.
Well, I'll even you out then.
Now then, it's all right. I don't think there's any need for that. But tell me, what are you doing hanging around this part of the bay? You don't live up here, right? You live down in the town.
No, but the fog was coming in, and I want to see them weird men.
What do you mean by that?
I want to see them weird men walk.
What do you...
And as he's talking, you see him pick up a pair of gardening shears, and he cuts an earthworm in half and throws it over the...
Stop doing that when you're speaking to your betters.
In fact, stop doing that completely. It's
Oh, sorry, madam.
cruelty to animals. There's absolutely no need for that.
It's not cruelty. What's cruelty?
It's causing them unnecessary pain.
I'll show you cruelty. Come here.
Seeing him chop these worms, I march straight up to him and I pull the shears off him.
All right. Don't have to be a prick.
Now listen, that language is entirely inappropriate. But if anyone around here is a prick, it's you for cutting worms in half, not me for stopping you cutting worms in half.
They'll be fine. They always are. You cut them in half, they live again.
It's hardly the
Should
point.
we cut you in half?
See if you live again. Well, I'll be looking after these gardening shears, so you can't do any more of that.
Fine. And in a sort of gesture of defiance, he picks up an earthworm, digs out an earthworm, and just pulls it in half and throws it over.
Listen!
Is there any chance that Caragmere hears any of this?
I don't know, how loud are you guys being? I mean, he's only a kid, so...
I'm not bellowing, just sort of normal conversational voice.
And there was a bit... You actually softened your voice down for the intimacy. You looked around, so now I don't think I do, do I? Damn it!
Yeah.
Oh!
I say to him, listen, boy. Perhaps you can be useful to us. What do you know of the crows down there?
I don't know. They're there sometimes, then they're not there some other times.
Oh, when are they not there?
I'm not about Peter and Paul, you stupid boy. I'm on about Mr. and Mrs. Crow.
Oh, aye. Yeah, their son died, didn't he?
Did he?
Aye, you know that, didn't you?
How did he die?
Well, do you want the polite story or the real story?
The real story, of course.
And the polite story.
Polite story was he got caught in a storm off the Cape.
In a boat?
Real story is he commandeered a vessel. That's what I've heard it called. He took it out there, trying to impress two girls. Him and those two drowned.
So he took the girls on the boat with him?
Pissed he was. Smashed out of his nut.
You shouldn't know about such things. He took the girls on the boat with him?
Yeah, apparently.
And who were the girls?
I don't know. They were from a local... I think they were travelling... I don't know, they did puppetry and stuff.
What?
Anyway, it don't matter.
Well, it does matter.
Sounds like it does matter.
They come to the town to do a story or whatever.
Do you mean travelling players?
Bum, bum,
Yeah.
bum.
Yeah, that sort of thing. They kept dressing up. They'd have little puppets on their hands. Anyway, it was shite. But he took him out one night. Storm came in. Never came back. You ask Jack. You know Jack down in the village. He took your bag up. He'll tell you.
Listen to me, young man. I don't know anyone in the village and I don't care to. So what you're telling me is that these two travelling players were not from the local area?
Well, I don't know. They were just young girls, you know.
How long ago was this?
He wanted to have his end away.
When did this happen? How long ago are we talking?
Well, a couple of years. I was but 7 then.
Yeah, I'm getting the picture of your age. Don't worry about that. All right. Well, okay. We'll come back to that. Tell me about these men, these strange men you're expecting to see walking. What's that all about? You've seemed full of stories tonight.
This kid chuckles like he almost doubles over, and he just starts scratching his belly and laughing. And he says, "Oh well, you'll see the men soon enough. Always with the fog. Always with the fog. They come in. I'm safe in here. Safe in here.
Okay, right.
In where?
Good luck."
Safe in where?
And he runs away through the graves.
Why do you keep telling us you're 9 years old?
I know, yes. That's just what I was wondering. Do we think he is? I'm wondering what on earth I can roll to find out whether I think he genuinely is 9 years old or whether he's some kind of, like, I don't know.
Wizened old man.
Wizened, like Benjamin Button. Or like a ghoul wearing a child's skin.
Yeah. Or like one of those, or like Robin Williams in whatever, The Big or whatever it's called. Tom Hanks, yeah, he's actually like a 93 or 106-year-old wizard who's like shriveled down to the size of an annoying child.
So the boy does run away, but he doesn't run far. He sort of runs between the gravestones. And,
Okay, I'd like to do an occult roll to see whether I think there's something really fucking weird going on with this boy's age. Is that alright?
yeah, please.
I mean, my occult's terrible, but it's all I can think to do. Yeah, I failed that. No fucking idea.
It's just a little boy.
He's just a little boy.
And in fact, as you're thinking those darker thoughts, as you're sort of thinking, is he 9 years old? He goes, 9 I am. I know more than most people about everyone's business. Anyway, you'll be seeing those folks shortly. The men will be here. Look, they're up on the hill.
And you say we're safe within the churchyard, boy?
I am. And he laughs and runs off.
If I ever see that child again, I'm going to beat him to death.
Is he still within earshot?
It's hard to tell at this point, away amongst the graves, but he's answered, so...
Precocious little shit.
I'm just going to jog after him a little bit and say, why are you safe? How can we make ourselves safe?
You're safe now. Enjoy the Boggle Hole Inn.
Listen, if you come back over here, you won't be.
All right, big boobs.
Did you hear what he called me, Reverend?
I did. I think it's best to leave it at this stage.
Boy, again, I will smack his mouth clean off his shoulders.
What's all this shouting about?
Boy has called me.
Why did he say he was 9 years old? And what do you mean by being safe in here?
I'm not sure, but he says he was waiting to see the men walk, and he pointed up towards that hill. And as I say that, I look up towards the hill.
Yeah, I also look where he's pointing.
Shit, well, of course I look at him, because he's just pointed at it, hasn't he?
And in a way, it's more disturbing that there's no one on the hill. But it's not that there's no one on the hill, you can't see the hill anymore. Because there seems to be a wave of fog moving in across the whole moor.
I don't like this at all.
And as the waves of fog sort of roll towards the churchyard, you hear from behind one of the graves near you the boy sort of doing this this sort of owl sound.
Reverend, would you please restrain me, because I'm going to go behind that gravestone and kick his neck in.
Listen, I understand your frustration, but I think we should leave it. I wonder whether we should get inside the church and check the Reverend's all right, and ask his advice on staying safe in this fog.
I think you're right. I certainly don't want to be outside when these men turn up.
What's wrong with the fog? It's just a sea mist, isn't it?
Well, this high up, the cliffs are quite close. We wouldn't want to stumble over any large drops.
I'm more worried about that so-called 9-year-old boy having cover of fog to pinch our pockets.
Yes, there is that as well. And as a player, I figure we've now just about given the Reverend long enough to hang himself, if that's what he's up to in there.
Yeah, if you want to make the way into the church, feel free. You do see these sort of... It's almost like a tsunami of fog coming in from both sides, covering the moors. And it seems to be sort of meeting in the exact place your path lent you from the guest house. So
I've spent some skill points in survival coastal.
Hey.
Very wise.
Well, it was coincidental. We didn't know the setting. It's just
the coasts of Sudan are very.
You have to. Well, he's an East Coast man, right?
He was born.
Yeah. Survival fens.
He was born Anik way, and then lived above Dundee. So, is this the kind of thing I've ever seen before? A pincer movement of sea fog? Okay, don't even need to roll. Okay, good.
It seems like a very... you assume it's something to do with the area, because it's so close to the sea and there's hills on either side, maybe it just...
Yeah, we're on like a ridge.
Yeah, exactly. So you're only a mile from the coast,
But I think I openly say it's most unusual. I've never seen this before. Yeah. It must be because of the ridge, like you say, Reverend.
Yes, I haven't experienced this before either, but I know the fog can come in quickly near the sea.
Let's get into that church, as you say.
Agreed.
So you hurry into the church.
Yes.
As you open the doors, you see the Reverend hanging from it. No, you get in, and actually, the first thing you see is him sort of knelt in front of the altar.
Oh, thank fuck!
Thank goodness! Oh, thank God!
Thought I'd actualised it. Thought I'd actualised hanging.
And he's sort of rocking backwards and forwards slightly in a sort of quite passionate way, I suppose. It's a very basic place, whitewashed stone walls, wooden pews. He's there about 30 yards in front of you. And there's no stained glass, but through the windows you just see this swirling grey as the fog sort of hits the sides of the church.
Reverend Blackwell. Reverend Blackwell.